Hi guys, welcome to the Pearls of Color podcast. My name is Sarah. You can find me on Ravelry as Sarloz. It's Sarloz. We have a podcast group as well, Pearls of Color podcast. Go check that out if you'd like. This is a special episode. I just posted an episode yesterday, episode 7. And I had another snow day today, so I decided to record again. My boyfriend suggested that I save the recording and post it next week or in a couple of weeks for you guys. However, I have no FOs to show you after yesterday. Actually, I do have some. I finished the hat I was working on, and I started a pair of kid mittens, and I finished one of the mitts. So I could show you that, but this I think I'm just going to designate as an episode on knitting needles. I have mentioned in previous podcasts and on my blog that I wanted to take the time to do a review on knitting needles, or not necessarily a review, but a comparison. And I'm going to try to be as biased as possible, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think knitting needles are what people like in the knitting needles is very different, so I think it's hard to make a comparison without putting your own opinion into it. But I am going to try my best to go over them, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I was looking for new knitting needles a couple years back, and I found it very overwhelming when I went to go look for a new set to buy. I knew I wanted to buy a set of interchangeables, and I knew I wanted to buy a good quality set that would last me some time. And I checked out the different Ravelry boards that you can find where people have asked what kind of needles they use and what other people would suggest. And one thing I found across the boards was that yes, people have multiple sets of knitting needles, but they never really compared them, or they were different types of sets. And the sets that I was looking at, the Higher, the Chai Glue, the Knitter's Pride, I never found anybody who actually really compared all of those together. I knew there were some needles that were definitely out of my price range. I wasn't going to buy any signatures or any addies. They were a bit higher than what I can afford. And I know there are more affordable sets out there. So that's what I'm kind of focusing on. My first set of interchangeables were the Knit Picks nickel-plated ones. And then I got some Knit Pick Sunstruck, or their Harmony needles. They're the same needle. They're both wooden. One of them is just colored versus one which is a plain wood. And at the time, I enjoyed using them. But Knit Picks did switch to a new manufacturer with their knitting needles, and with that switch came what I felt was lower quality, so I was having difficulty with them. So that's what really got me into the process of looking at other knitting needles and trying to find comparisons for them. So today I'll actually show you all the different needles I have. Not every pair, I have a lot of knitting needles. The girls in my knit group, a couple of them actually make fun of how much I have. They haven't even seen the full amount that I do have. I have a lot. It goes along with my yarn collection, right? So I'll go over the different brands that I do have, and I'll tell you what I liked and what I didn't like about them. And then I'll try my best to compare them for you guys. Like most knitters, I started off using straight needles, just the Susan Bates and whatever you found at Joann's. And as much as I still like straight needles, they're not for me. I have a lot of wrist problems. I have carpal tunnel and I have weak wrists, so straight needles, I can't knit on them as long as I can on the circular needles. For those of you who don't know, circular needles are supposed to be better for those people who have wrist issues. When you're working on straight needles, the weight of your project falls on the needle itself. So when you're holding your needles, they're actually pulling on your wrist. That weight is pulling on the needles, which is pulling on your wrist. When you're knitting on a circular needle, your project, the bulk of your project is resting on your cable. And the cable kind of allows you to rest your work in your lap or on a surface much more easily than straight needles do. So the weight is supported by something else, and it's not hanging directly off of your wrists. So for those of you who do have wrist problems, you might want to try circular needles out. I love the circular needles because I don't have to worry about whether I'm knitting a straight project or a circular project and whether or not I have the right required needles. So I quickly switched to the circulars. I tried the long knit needles, straight knit needles. They kept getting in my way, and I don't know how I was holding the needles, but they kept brushing across my chest, and they were just getting really cumbersome, and they were not comfortable. So I switched to the short ones, and then I tried bamboo short ones as well, and there's just not much you can do with those. There's only so much stitches you can cast on, and there's only so much you can do with the straight needles. And that was one reason too why I looked for circulars. When I switched over to circulars, I went with what was at Joann's, Susan Bates, where they have like the little bend and this awful kinky cable. And then the Clovers. I don't know if Susan Bates has gotten any better for circular needles. That was when that's when I first started knit almost 10 years ago. So I haven't tried them out since. But and then the Clover bamboo, their tips are very dull, so it's very tough sometimes, especially for new knitters, I find, to get into the stitches. So I worked with those for a little bit until I found, someone introduced me to K.A. knit needles, and I wish I had a package to show you, but I've long gotten rid of them. But they're a bamboo needle with a like golden looking plate at the bottom, and they swivel. So they swivel. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, so they swivel right on the cord. And their tips are much better than the Clover. And I really like these. The cord was pretty flexible. It's still, it has a lot of memory in the cord. So it does have those loops in it. I found, though, that if I heated my hands up and just ran them along the cord for a bit, it really would straighten them out until you curled them back up again. So I use these most of, pretty much the whole time I was in college knitting. I used them a lot, and I started off knitting things with a double or circular method. So I had multiple sizes, but I had not just multiple sizes, but I had multiple needles with each size. So I know, I guess I use threes a lot because I have a ton of size 3 needles, which I barely use anymore. So those are the K.A. And I like these too because they go down really low in size. So I have zeros as my smallest, which I don't use often. They do have a tendency to bend, but I really like the way these feel in my hands. The bamboo warms up nicely. And as far as bamboo needles go, I haven't tried many different brands. I've mainly tried these ones. So I can't really compare these to other bamboos, unfortunately. They are my go-to bamboo. I don't use bamboo needles often anymore, but when I do go back to these. I have played with the idea of getting them as an interchangeable set because they do have them now. I just don't think I use them enough to spend the money on a whole interchangeable set. But if you like bamboo needles and haven't tried the K-A or car. I don't know if it's pronounced by initials or as one word. I do suggest them, or at least that you buy one circular and test it out. They're not pricey, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't think I spent a lot on them for one set. So I have a bunch of them. And I still keep these. I haven't really gotten rid of them because I do like these as far as bamboo go. Let's see, what else? So those are the bamboo ones that I was using. And I was using the Knit Pick circulars. So they've got the purple cord. These ones I'm showing you right now are fixed circulars. And as far as Knit Picks goes for fixed circulars, I like them. And if you just used fixed circulars, I would suggest them. They're a cheaper price. They're a lower price. I should not use the word cheap, guys. I don't like using that when I'm talking about items because I don't want people to get the wrong opinion and think the item itself is a cheap item and it's going to break easily. But as far as their fixed circulars go, I like their fixed circulars. And I, in the future, might buy more Knit Picks nickel-plated fixed circulars, but I don't really have a need for them right now. I mainly use interchangeables now. But if you're looking for some fixed circulars and you're on a budget, I do recommend them. I don't know how their newer ones are. I haven't tested their newer ones out. I just have older ones, but I do like the older ones. From there, I switched over to Knit Picks interchangeables, the nickel plated, and I did buy their Harmony. So I highly recommend if you're looking to try out needles and you can find a brand that does one of their sampler sets with the different types of needles in it, invest in it. I think it's like $20, most of them are $20 depending on what needles they are. And you'll get a couple cables as well as usually it's like 3 different needle sets, tips I mean. And they're great because if you find a set of tips you like, you just have to buy more tips if you're not looking for a set. You don't have to go out and buy extra cables because you already have a few cables from the kit as well. So originally, the first one I bought a sampler set from Knit Picks, and they came with Harmony needles, which are wooden. They came with a set of their nickel-plated interchangeables. And then at the time, which they don't make these anymore, and I understand why. Zephyr? I'm saying that wrong. But they're like kind of like an acrylic. They're clear. They're very sticky. I've used them for a couple projects, and it is agony using them. I know people do like them. Some people do. And for me, it was very slow to knit with these. The stitches did not move very well across them. But if you're a new knitter and have issues with dropped stitches, these actually aren't bad. Unfortunately, they're not made anymore, but I have seen them in different company brands. I don't think they're hugely popular though. At the time, I didn't mind the Harmony ones. I'm not a big fan of wooden needles though, so I don't use them anymore. I just have the one set of these, but I also bought 2 sets of their Sunstruck ones, which are just their plain non-colored wooden needles. I have since sold one of those sets. I bought 2 because at the time I was knitting circular using the double circular method like I mentioned before. I have since switched over to just doing magic loop, so I don't buy 2 of every set anymore. It's just, I know not the best way to go sometimes. I used the Knit Picks ones for quite some time, and they were fine until I went on a hiatus for about 3 years from knitting. I didn't knit. I was in a job that was very tiring, and I just didn't knit. And like I said, Knit Picks changed manufacturers, and the new manufacturer, the needles just, they weren't as good as they used to be. I was having a lot of issues with the cables. Not only were they coming undone where the plastic meets the join here, but the screw part was not screwing into the needles all the way. I'll show you what it was like. So I might have gotten that far in screwing the needle on, and then they wouldn't go anymore. It just would not budge, and I didn't want to, I couldn't force them on. Some of them I could get down to the bottom, but it was a real struggle. Every single time I bought new cables, it never failed. There was at least one cable in there that either broke right away, came right out of the join, or did not screw in properly. I was getting really frustrated with that. It was just like throwing money down the drain. So that's when I started looking for the new needles. And a lot of people had mentioned the Chai-Gu and the Higher. So I bought, the first thing I bought was a circular Chai-Gu to give it a try. So they have, Chai-Gu has their twist and their spin brands. The spin referred to their bamboo, I believe, and the twist to their red lace. So you can buy the red lace Chai-Gu needles, and you'll find that these are their straight circulars. There is just the Chai-Gu stainless steel ones that are not their red lace ones that you can buy, and they have the bend. I don't like bends in my needles. They just, I don't know, I don't like the way it slows my knitting down. I feel like it slows my knitting down. I could be wrong. Guys, I'm still wearing my pajama pants, sorry. It's a snow day. What can I say? I have my Knit is for Life t-shirt on. Anyways, back to the knitting needles. I'm not a big fan of the bend, and I know a lot of people aren't. Recently I was watching an episode of Knitting in Circles podcast with Darren and Amy, and she had a pair of these, and she said she managed to bend them straight, or as straight as she could get them. And I'm thinking I might try that with these ones. I don't use them. I have the red lace in the same sizes, and I stick to those. But I might try bending them back. I like the Chai-Gu because price-wise, they're pretty decent. They're about $7 to $8 for the interchangeable tips. I forget what their circulars go for, but as far as needles go, they're an affordable one. Actually, the Chai-Gu are my go-to. They're my go-to now. Knitted needle. They're my favorite. So I bought a few of their circulars to give them a test, and I enjoyed them. I know a lot of people have commented on their cables. So their cables, from what I've read and learned, it's wires that are twisted with this red coating around them. So it gives you a cord that has very little memory to it, and it's a very stable cord. Some people complain they're not very flexible. I feel like they are pretty flexible. Like I said, I magic loop everything these days, and I have no problem magic looping on these, especially if I'm using a longer cabled needle. you can bend them and they will get like a little cinch in them, but they can be straightened back out. They don't hold on to the curve. Like when you coil them up, they don't hold on to that. They have, like I said, low memory for that. So if I take it out, it doesn't. And that's why I love these ones so much, is because they don't coil up on me when I'm knitting with them. And I also have found with knitting needles, I do prefer a thicker cable. So I have the Chagoo interchangeables. I bought their full set. That was right after I was looking for new knitting needles. They're the ones that I did decide on, and I got them for Christmas. I got the full set, size 2 all the way up to size 15. And they come in this case right here. It has a front zipper pocket. And then I'll open it up and show you. And then it's got a couple rows, and I just dumped a bunch of knit needles out. Maybe I didn't drop a bunch of knit needles out. Although, I'll figure it out. The case is nice. I love the knit needles. I have no problem with them. And the best thing about their interchangeable set is that you can buy their stainless steel needles set as well as their bamboo set and use the same cords. The bamboo set comes with their spin cord, which you know what? I'm going to go off screen for like 1 second. I'm going to go grab the cables for the spin set just to show you what they look like. I tried to have everything ready when I did this episode, but it never fails. I always have to grab something and go off camera. I'm sorry for that. So their cables come in large and small, depending on, so that they go with certain size ranges, like most needles. So this is their spin cable, and they swivel, just like the KA needles. These have the little dots in them, as do the red lace cables, where you can put a lifeline and thread it through your work. So they swivel, and I love that option on a needle, is having them be able to swivel. The cord is a little thicker than, I think they're a bit thicker than a higher cord. Can't find my higher. I wish I could find my higher cable. I wish I had that when I started this video and knew. Anyways, these cords do have a little more memory, as you can see, than their red cables. So they do kink up a little. Add a little warmth to them and you can straighten them out a bit more. But they're nice to work with. I preferably stick to the red cables. They are my favorite. I like the sturdiness of them. I know there's just something when I'm knitting with those that I really feel like my project is secure in my hands. That's just me, though. Let me put this away. They all come with the little T-pin so that you can tighten your needles. I use a grip, like a can opener grip, to securely attach all of my needles. Some people with interchangeables have that problem where as they're knitting, the needle starts coming undone from the join, the screw. But if you tighten them, some people will use a rubber band to hold when they grip them to tighten it. I like to use like a can opener. You know, just one of those you put on top of a can when you can't open it. I found one laying around at one of my jobs. I worked at a bank once, and they had these house-shaped ones that they were giving away for promotions, and it must have been a long time because I've never seen them, and I worked for them for a couple of years, and prior to that, it was just one tucked away in a random drawer in the office. So I took it home and I cut it up into little squares, and I keep one in most of my project bags and with most of my knit and needle cases, so that I can just pull them out and screw them in, and I don't have a problem with them coming undone after I've done that. So these are the spin needles. I'm trying to get it so that you can see them easily in the high contrast. Maybe if I hold. They have a nice tip to it. Actually, I should try using these out a little more. I haven't used these often. I only have them in a size 2. And usually when I'm using something for a size 2, it's socks, and I go with my red lace ones. But they were wooden. No. I don't remember if they're wooden or if they're bamboo. But they do have a nice tip to them. I'm going to have to try these out a little more, guys. I don't have much to say about them because I haven't tried them often. But they come with that spin cable, so they swivel. You can connect the red lace cable to them, though. I also, what I love about the sorry, I was looking at something in my set. The Chai Goo, well, there's multiple things. First off, it has everything lasered right into the needle, and it'll have an S or an L here letting you know what size cable you need. I love the way they feel in my hands. They warm up easily, and the tips are great. They are definitely my go-to for lace knitting. Like I said, I haven't tried any more expensive brands like the Abbeys or the Signatures, but for a lower budget that I'm on, these so far have been my favorite to use with the lace. And the red cable really helps if you're using a light color to see the yarn against. And yeah, I like these a lot. The one somewhat complaint I have about them, which really isn't a complaint necessarily about the needles, well, maybe it is that when I knit for long periods of time on this, my finger starts to crack. I don't know if you can see it. I've got a few cracks and calluses right along my index finger, because when I'm knitting, I press it in with my index finger. So if I'm knitting for long periods of time, my skin gets really dry, and they start splitting. You see those what look like scratches? That's from knitting. My fingers they do get dry from the yarn, and this particular tip's a little more pointy than most. So I do kind of get little cracks and cuts in my finger from this constantly pressing in one spot. So then I'll have to put a Band-Aid on. But I can't knit with the Band-Aid, so then I have to switch needles. So usually when I have knitting projects going, I have my my projects using the CHA and then I have other projects with different needles that I can switch to if my fingers are bothering me. But these are my go-to. The yarn slides across them nicely. They don't stick. The name doesn't wear off. I love the cables. They're my favorite. They're nice and sturdy, but they're still, I find, flexible, and they have no memory, so they're not going to kink up and get in your way like most needles. And they're really versatile. Like I said, you can buy the, if you don't like the red cables, you can buy the I think it's nylon. I don't know. I don't know what material that's made out of, but they're spin cables, the clear ones. You can buy those instead to go with them. So if you're looking for a good set to invest in, I do highly recommend the CHA. And there's their name. I don't know if I say it right, but I have, I have their interchangeable case, but I also have their circular case for my circular needles. I have some higher. I bought a few to test out. I have higher shops. Can't really see the writing on it, but I like these a lot too. I haven't used them a lot, but I like the long tapered tip on them. I'm still deciding on how I like the cable. I seem to have lost my cables, guys, for my higher, which makes me a little nervous. They might be in a knitting bag somewhere because I can't find. I had two. I had a small and a large cable, size 32s. That's my go-to cable length for anything. I do have 24-inch cables, and I do have larger cables, but the 32 is my go-to. Their cables are like a clear blue, and they're, I think, I want to say they're a little thinner than the Spin CHA clear cables. Actually, I want to say they're a lot thinner, but I don't have them with me right now to completely look at. They do spin as well. I'm so mad I didn't pull those out and make sure I had them to show you, because I did want to talk about them. The cable's not my favorite. I do like the needle tips though. And the reason I don't necessarily like not that I don't like the cable, it's not my favorite because they do have more memory to them. I think they have less memory though than the Spin cables, the clear CHA ones. I like their tips though. I don't have like a full set of the higher. I just have a couple tips and a couple cables that I wanted to try out. I haven't used them a lot, and I really should use them a little more to give them more love and to test them out a little more. But I also, my boyfriend bought me the Knitter's Pride carbons for my birthday, and I actually have several different. This is my Knitter's Pride collection. So there's, I've got some carbons, some Novas, whatever their wooden one is. I got one set of cubics that I got in a sample set. I got those in a sample set. And then it came with the carbons in a sample set. So I bought their sampler to try out, and I love their cables. These are my I'll show you their circular. So this is a fixed circular, 1.5 US. I use these a lot for my socks. They have like a black cable, and it has a little bit of memory, but not a lot of memory to them. Next to my Chagoo, the Knitter's Pride are my favorite. Their carbons and their novas, and I think I actually like their novas just a smidge more than their carbons. I like the carbon. I love how they feel on my hand. They warm up so nicely. They feel really comfortable in your hands. And the tips, they're not as tapered at the top as my Chagoo. They have a nice point to them, so I do use them for lace work too. They have a shorter needle tip. I like to use these when my Chagoo are bothering my fingers. This tip feels really nice against my finger. It doesn't bother me. It's not as pointy. The one thing with the carbons is I do find them to be a little more sticky than my stainless steel needles. But not as sticky as wood or bamboo. I do like them. I do like their Nova better though. I've been using my size 4 Novas a lot, and I'm really sad because they started to bend a little, and I hate when my needles start to bend. I can bend them back, but it's just really disappointing. So here are the Novas. They have multiple. They have Nova Platinum. I think I forget what it's called. Don't quote me on that. It's Nova, and it starts with a PL. I'll link them in the show notes for you guys. I haven't tried those. Those are a newer one I haven't bought yet. And they're supposed to have a longer tip, a sharper point, but I have my Chagoo for that, so I haven't really been compelled to buy them. I do like the regular Novas though. And then they have the Nova Cubics. I do not like the Cubics. Those are the square needles. I don't know. I don't like the way they feel in my hands. They feel foreign to me, and I don't like the gauge I get with them. It definitely gives me a looser gauge, and it's not for me. I know some people swear by Cubics, or any square needles. I do not like square needles. I don't like the way they feel on my fingers. The Novas though are after my Chagoo, I go right to my Novas, and then if I don't have the Novas, I go to the Knitter's Pride, and then I'll go to my higher if I don't have the size I need. The red lace cables are my favorite. Next is the black Knitter's Pride cable. The Knitter's Pride cables are, I feel like they're more sturdy. They have less memory than the clear spin Chagoos and the higher, and they're very flexible. They don't feel so stiff, and they're definitely not as stiff as the red lace Chagoos. I find that the white label on them does wear out with use, but the size is also etched into the metal there, so it's easy to find the size that you want. I love the Knitter's Pride interchangeable case that comes with the set when you buy it as a set. Sorry, I'm trying to put my needles back. I don't need to not look at the camera. So this is what it came in. And so it's got these 2 black lines, and they're cinched off so that you can put your needles in. And I have this set of carbons. I have multiple size 4s in different needles. You can fit a lot of needles in this case, and it comes with 2 pages. And then I've got some Chagoo in here as well. These are my fixed circulars that are my sock knitted needles. So I've got some knitted pride in there, and then I got my Chagoo. I'm trying to keep them all in the same place. I've got my Chagoo cables. I've got one of my blue rubber mats to help twist them in. And then in the back is the instructions that came with the interchangeable set. I wish I need to see if they actually sell this case separately. I would love a second one to put my Chagoo needles in. I like the Chagoo case, but I would preferably like a case like this to put them in instead. Those, my go-to are the Chagoo and the Knitter's Pride. They both warm up quickly in your hands. They both have cables that have less memory to them, and they both have nice tips. The Knitter's Prides don't have a sharp tip, the carbon ones, but that's what I have my Chagoo for. So if I'm knitting something that doesn't require a lot of tight knitting or lace knitting, I go with the Knitter's Pride or the Novas. And it's nice for me to switch between the two, like I said, so that if my finger starts bothering me, I can use a needle that's not as pointy. My go-to needles are the Chagoo, though. Knit Picks, their old ones were great, especially if you're looking for something that is more affordable, if you're on a low budget. Their new ones, I had a lot of trouble with their cables. Not the best quality, but if you're looking for fixed needles, I highly recommend those if you're on a lower budget. If you're looking for a sturdy cable that has very little memory, I suggest going with the red lace. If you're looking for a cable that has more flexibility but still doesn't have a lot of memory, go with the Knitter's Pride. And then if you're looking for something with the swivel, Chagoo spin cables will connect to either their stainless steel tips or their bamboo tips, or you can get higher, which I like the higher because they're really light in your hands, and I find the Novas are light. Chagoo kind of has like a hollow feeling to them when you're knitting with them. As the Novas, I don't feel like they're as hollow, but they're still light. And then the carbons, really, there's something about them when you're knitting with them. As they start warming up in your hands, they almost feel pliable, but they're not. So they're really comfortable to use. So that's really all I have to say about the different knitted needles, and I hope this helps some of you in deciding on what you're looking for. And I just suggest that if you can buy sampler sets to test different ones out first, buy a sampler set, or just buy a fixed set first and see how you like the materials that are being used in there to see if it's something that you enjoy. The Chagoo, like I said, is pretty affordable, and even the set isn't too bad if you're buying it as like a gift. I would go with the full set if you're going to buy them, if you want all the sizes. Some people don't like all the sizes. I like having all the sizes, and I went and I bought all the different sized cables, spin and red, the twist, they're called. And I'm really bummed I don't have the higher cables to show you. But if you like fixed bamboos, I have the cars that I use. A lot of memory in the cables. The spin set of the Chigu has less memory. I suggest those. And I really hope you guys got something out of my reviews. And I hope you found some stuff out that will help you in the future. Enjoy. Have a nice evening. Bye, guys.